Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Beauty and Mystery. Before I jump into today's video, I've had a couple things on my mind that I wanted to address, and by no means am I a journalist, a reporter. I am not on Oprah's level. I just love crime, and with each story that I choose to talk about, I do go on a bunch of different sites to gather as much information that I can, but of course I'm going to make mistakes. And if I ever make a mistake or omit something, I welcome you to tell me in the comments. But I want to harbor a respectful, positive community in the comments. I'm not perfect, and I'm not trying to rewrite history. I'm honestly just doing my best, and I'm still learning this, and my biggest thing is to get as much correct as I can and tell it in a way that maybe can open your eyes or just see things from a new perspective. Now, in my video with Honey and Barry Sherman, I had quite a few of you bring up different leads or possible suspects. I want to encourage that because obviously sometimes I forget things, or I don't want my videos, with the Barry and Honey case, that was a half-an-hour video that I got down to like 16 minutes. And so obviously sometimes I can't include everything, but this is why I'm doing an update video on the case, and I'm going to be covering different leads that were posted in the comment section of the first video so that I can cover everything, because it's a case I'm really interested in, and I know a lot of you are too. So I want to cover everything. I'm not trying to omit things on purpose. Just really, truly just doing my best. So putting that aside, let's jump into today's video. Now, actually, some of you had sent me an article relating to Barry and Honey Sherman, and I think it was the beginning of June that the Supreme Court was previously sealed documents relating to the assets and will of testament of Barry and Honey Sherman. Now, these were kept sealed, but they voted, and now some of these documents have been unsealed. So then we got a little bit of information of what was in the will of Barry and Honey Sherman, which is very interesting, which I will get to. And then I also want to discuss other motives that could have contributed to their murders, and some of them include the son Jonathan. Now, I didn't have too much information. Obviously in these kind of murders, they always look at the family and those that were closest to them, but I thought it was just a rumor. But then I found an article that maybe he could have had something to do with it, so I'm going to discuss that. So let's jump into the documents that were recently unsealed. What I first think is interesting is that in these documents it was revealed that Barry actually had two wills and Honey didn't have a will. So since her life was taken so unexpectedly, it could be, and this is just me speculating, that maybe it was something she hadn't gotten around to. But when you're very wealthy like that, it's very important to have a will. Even if you don't have a lot of money, it's important to have a will. So I can't really speculate or come to a conclusion why she didn't have a will, but as far as we know, Barry had two wills. So, and this is also a very interesting point. The year that they died in 2017, he had recently updated his will. So in this will, Barry and Honey's estate would be equally divided amongst their four children: Jonathan, Lauren, Kaylin, and Alexandra. Now, Barry put this timeline in place. He didn't want all the estate to go to the children right away. He said 1/3 would be when they were 25, the other third when they were 30, and then the last of it when they were 35. There is quite an age difference between the children, so it is possible that some of them already have the full amount of their inheritance. As I mentioned before, in 2017, Barry had recently updated his will. So on his previous will, he had 8 trustees. Now, a trustee is someone who you appoint and will help look over your finances after you pass away. So he went from 8 trustees to 4, and the 4 trustees were his son Jonathan, his son-in-law Bradley Crossick, now I don't know if I said that name right, his business partner Jack Kay, and a company executive Alex Glassenberg. So in the will, Barry also laid out instructions should he pass away before Honey. So again, he gave the trustees full control over giving Honey quarterly installments. To be honest, when I read this, it was a lot of jargon that I don't really understand, so I kind of made my own interpretation. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but he gave the trustees, so the 4 men that I identified, control on how much they could give Honey and the amount, but he also mentioned that he wanted Honey to have enough to be comfortable. So that's what I took from it. But again, the trustees, not Honey. Honey doesn't really have any autonomy in how much of the estate that she would be getting from Barry, but it would be the trustees that would overlook that and give her installments of money. Now this is just me speculating again, like I always do. I don't know if Honey was in agreement with this. I don't know if she approved of this. Again, this is Barry's will. So that's just a food for thought there for everyone that likes to, you know, conspire. These documents were very useful in terms of Barry's plans for when he would be no longer around. But there was no information that brought us any closer to who could have committed this crime. You know, when I first saw this on the news, or when someone sent me an article, I'm like, oh, maybe this will, you know, give us some more suspects. But no, it was mostly just about the will and testament of Barry Sherman. So again, very helpful, but it still leaves us to speculate. Now, a possible suspect that I didn't talk in my original video was Jonathan Sherman, who was the son of Barry and Honey Sherman. Now, the reason why I didn't talk about him, because I didn't think I couldn't find enough evidence, or, you know, maybe I wasn't looking at the right articles to suggest that maybe he could have been responsible, but I did a little bit more digging, and it was really interesting. In 2017, I believe, Barry actually asked Jonathan, who's also a businessman, for a $50 million loan. And you know, I was actually reading an interview with a reporter from the Toronto Star and Jonathan, and this was in 2021. He really just wanted to put his story out there because there was speculation that, you know, Jonathan was somehow involved. And he mentioned to the reporter that his dad was asking for a $50 million loan due to some business dealings, and he was short for money. I don't even want to get into it because, you know, that stuff really confuses me. But the bottom line is the dad, Barry, was asking Jonathan for money. And it was a back and forth, and I really don't know if, and you know, he even brings this up. He's like, I would not have a motive to kill my father for over $50 million. Apparently Barry was always going up and down. Sometimes he had money, a lot of money or cash on him. That was just the nature of the business. But you know, this is brought up a lot, this $50 million loan, and I don't even know if it was even given to him. But yeah, maybe you guys can let me know. So in terms of that, he said if that is the motive that people are thinking that could have led to a murder, you are surely mistaken. Also, what Jonathan mentions is that him and his sister Alexandra are no longer speaking, and Alexandra also suspects Jonathan that he is somehow involved with the murder. And he said for years now they have not spoken, and he said some of the relationship between the siblings have not been the same since. So obviously there is a suspect within the family, but again, we don't know who did it for sure. So until that is all settled, I don't see these siblings really coming back together, which is really sad. I mean, if Jonathan did have something to do with it, you know, Alexandra has every right to be upset and questionable, but you know, if Jonathan didn't do it, it's like a family that has been broken apart by this horrible tragedy. Jonathan also mentioned that him and his father, Barry, were throughout the years kind of always talking about business, and he said, you know, his dad would loan him money, but he always paid him back, so there were no money issues or anything that would lead to Jonathan wanting to get revenge on his father. I mean, in the will that I just spoke about, he was getting a huge inheritance. You know, could that have been a motive? I mean, going over some of the facts here, it doesn't seem that Jonathan was in any financial trouble and he needed a quick payout. He did have some businesses and they seem to be very successful. So I don't know. That's why I didn't really bring him in, but you just really never know how someone feels, and you know, he could just be putting on a really brave front, but we just don't know for sure. And you know, Jonathan also mentions in this interview that, you know, he put in so much money to hire a private investigator because he really wants this case to be solved. He wants his parents' murderers to be brought to justice. You know, they actually hired their own security. All the siblings have their own security because they just don't, like, imagine that for years now, having security because they just don't know who could have done this and always feeling on edge. No arrests made against Jonathan. You know, he lives in, I'm pretty sure he still lives in the GTA, and the interviewer asked him where he was the night of his parents' murder, and he did have a photo that was taken at his home around the suggested time of death, because we don't know for sure when Barry and Honey were murdered. So that to him is his way of saying, you know, I am innocent, I wasn't there. And when he heard of his parents' murder, he was at the cottage. So he kind of lays out this timeline just to really show that he did not commit this crime. I hope that you found this enjoyable, and if there's another major update, I will keep you all posted. Thank you for watching. I encourage everyone to participate in the comments and let me know what you think. I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye!